What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We are talking about episode 5 of Loki. Not going to do a whole lot of breakdown and review and walkthrough. What we are going to do is spend a lot of time talking about time travel, talking about some of the things that they explained in this episode, some of the things that really hold true with in-game time rules, and then what that means for the finale coming up next Thursday. Before we do that, please like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so when we drop new content, you'll be the first one to know about it. Then share this sucker all across the spaghettified multiverse. Listen, if you go back and watch my prediction video, which is up here somewhere, prediction video for episode 5, we hit a lot of things here. First off, one of the things that was a big deal, getting the gang back together. The temporal loom exploded. We'll get to that in a minute. But the big thing is that Loki finds himself pulled out of time again, and he has to go around and try to figure out where everybody's at. He's connected with everybody, and he is realizing that he realizes that he does at the end of the episode that it's not about where, what, or when, or why. It's about who. That's how he controls his time slipping. He's connected to these people, whatever that means. And I think they're going to explore that. I think it's a really good plot device for relationship and the storyline. It was really well written. But what I think is going on there is that as he is pulled out of time, we got this explanation, like we talked about in the prediction video last week, that the writers weren't going to spend a whole lot of time on trying to catch people as they went flying through the multiverse. It wasn't going to be a let's go get, let's spend the last 2 episodes going and saving everybody else, getting the gang back together. They did that, but my prediction, my theory was that they were going to get through that real quick. That there was a much bigger story there, and there was a couple of really big moments after this time travel stuff that we are going to talk about. We need to talk about. The other prediction was that we've been talking about the whole time was pay attention to the multiversal rules. They gave you a lot more of these in this episode that are going to have bigger implications moving forward in the MCU, and they also held true and doubled down on some things heard about in Endgame. For instance, the conversation that Bruce Banner has with the Ancient One when they're talking about taking the Infinity Stones and pulling it out of the timeline, and that it would create this alternate timeline where evil would run rampant. Bruce says if we take that stone out and we bring it back when we're done with it, it'll be like it never left. Loki, in a conversation with Mobius, actually says this. He says, talking about Mobius's kids, we can move through time. I can bring you back to the exact moment, and it'll be like you never left. And Mobius is able to turn around and see the conversation that he and Loki had just had. That holds true to the in-game time rules. It also holds true with multiversal theory, that there are branching timelines, and you were able to see that visually, not just in the little blurb at the bottom, but Loki and Mobius watching an earlier conversation of them with Loki and Mobius. It's not like they couldn't go and interact with that, but it would be a new future for them and a new past for the other ones, and it wouldn't be some extra memory that they were then catching on to. Things are happening the way they're supposed to happen, and it's not an intervening thing and stuff like that. Those rules hold true, unlike what has happened in the TVA thus far, and they remind you of that too. The TVA is outside of time, and it's a place that isn't supposed to exist to begin with, because how can you exist outside of time? And yet it does. OB, or AD Doug, reminds Loki of those things multiple times. We've been reminded of it the entire series. We've been getting bits and pieces, so when you get this as just a back and forth story, you don't have to think about it too much. That's the main objective of the way that they're writing this and the way that they're showing you these things. The spaghettification of the universes things unraveling. I think they're going to explain that further. I don't think that the loom exploding has destroyed reality, because we've already gone through what it looks like to prune a reality, and we've already talked about all these people are dying. There's something else there that these strands of time are representing, and it's not just, I don't think it's just things unraveling, because that idea means that the loom has to stay active in order to weave time together. And that's not how time functions. That's how He Who Remains created the sacred timeline. So there's still something there that I think we're going to get some more explanation in episode 6, and we'll talk about that in a theory video later. The other big thing that we talked about in our prediction video for episode 5 that happened in this episode, and it came complete with a big swell of audio. The first time that Loki meets A.D. Doug, who is OB, my prediction was that because you found out how Victor Timely became Victor Timely, that he was pushed forward by Renslayer handing him a TVA manual, and then OB and Victor have this moment where OB says, well, I was influenced by a 19th century scientist, and Victor says, well, I was influenced by OB, and it's, okay, well, which one came first? Yes, that's a loop. But both of these men had their own origin story, so to speak. If it's the tail, if it's the snake eating its own tail, you can still differentiate and say, this is the head, this is the tail, and it had a starting point. We saw Victor's, but we did not see OB's until Loki finds OB and he says, you can help me figure out how to make a TemPad. You can help me get back to my reality. And OB says it would take a lifetime to do that, which assumes if OB had a lifetime to do it, the way that it would have happened is you give him enough time and OB eventually does that, that being create the TVA perhaps. We have yet to see some of that too. There's further down OB's thread that we have not gotten yet, that I think we're gonna get. But it would take him a lifetime, which is fine, or Loki can simply hand him the book that he's already going to make later that pushes his story forward, that is inspired by Victor Timely, or perhaps inspired by OB. OB either writes it to begin with and then it goes to Victor, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter where the information came from. Victor could have started it, OB could have started it. It could have been pieces of their stories where like a book with several chapters that are written by multiple authors. It can be something like that. The material inside the book doesn't matter, and it can change. The authorship can change, but finding out how they started down that path, I think, is important. Even though in a multiverse anything can happen, there is still a moment, a moment in time where those stories, those choices branch. And for them to hold true to this, I think those things are important, because those are the moments you're going to have to go back to say, this is where it all happened. This is where it started. This is what we're coming back to, or this is what we're hitting for the first time. Because you're going to have those moments where they can intervene, where they can stop it, or where their intervention creates this new thing. And you got to see that with OB and Loki, because he hands him the TVA handbook, which jumpstarts OB's process. And you even got this swell of audio of this music there, this auditory cue to show you this is important. So I thought that was a really great moment. OB being an author, the Zartan Chronicles contingent is also a deep Easter egg for Marvel. These aliens called Zartans, spelled with an X instead of a Z, are kind of shape-shifting and that kind of thing. That could be something at play here. It could not be. It could just be a clever Easter egg. Casey being Frank Morris, the infamous Alcatraz inmate that escaped from Alcatraz, made famous by the Clint Eastwood movie, is a really cool touch in that Frank Morris disappears and nobody knows if he made it or not. And the reason he disappears in the Marvel Universe is because Loki comes and gets him. I thought that was really cool, similar to the D.B. Cooper thing they did in season 1. All of these theories, all of these things that they're bringing together, I thought it was really cool that they used a different plot device rather than Sylvie showing up and being able to just He Who Remains Tempad. They showed that in the end credits, which were different than the first 4 episodes, and I think that's going to be important. You got to see Obi's lab in California, which had a very similar aesthetic to the TVA, and so I think we're going to find out probably that Obi had something to do with the creation of the TVA, the beginning of the TVA, and that this Renslayer, He Who Remains partnership was some kind of side quest, something that happened after the fact and Obi got caught up in it. Renslayer is still out there somewhere, and everybody was affected by this differently, and I think episode 6 is going to further fold in on itself, similar to the way the beginning of episode 5 did, where Loki was hitting several different points in time and overlapping with himself. You're gonna really get that. There was a Zaniac reference in the bar that Sylvie and Loki go to, which means I don't think we're done with Hunter X5 either. I think they're reminding you of all these things, and they're giving you visual cues, and they're giving you all these different things because they're bringing this back full circle. The writers have said that episodes 5 and 6 are their favorite episodes. I tend to agree right now. 4 and 5 have been really great. I think episode 6 really has a chance to bring this home in a way that a Marvel series hasn't done well in quite a while. We'll talk about all this in a prediction video coming on Tuesday. But until then, I'm curious what you guys think. I'm curious to hear your theories, your time travel predictions, all of your explanations for these things. I think they're really handling the source material, handling the backstory from these other movies very well. But I'm curious what you guys think. Share your ideas in the comments below. Please like and subscribe as always. And then check out some of our other content over here. We've got a definitive explanation of the multiverse in case you're still confused. And until the next one drops, guys, we'll catch you right back here. Later.